A lot of time, as you know, as we grow up, everything is, oh, go to this auntie, she'll show you how to do this. We're very much like almost like an apprentice kind of like culture, right? Growing up. So nothing is really documented. You have to go and see. It only takes one like generation for things to disappear.
So I was really happy to know that you're working with Coachella. You were creating menus and dishes based on the essence of the festival.
All my friends always know, oh, Nana has a playlist for everything. In order to understand a culture, you really like music is like the easiest way in, right? Two things people don't understand: what the difference between a cook and a chef. And a chef is somebody who not only leads but makes other chefs. And I think a cook just somebody who follows direction. Ghanaian chefs that are here, we have talent here. It just needs to be nurtured.
More than jollof. Welcome to More Than Jollof, the food podcast that aims to shine African food personalities, food tech CEOs, and food innovators across the continent of Africa. Nana's main objective is to make sure that she puts her memories on the plate through nostalgia and deliciousness. Hi, Nana.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I feel like this has been a long time coming.
But we are finally here.
Yes.
And I mean, they say that good things take time.
That's it. Absolutely.
But first of all, you're in Ghana. What are you doing in Ghana?
Oh.
I know you don't live here. So what are you doing here?
Yes. Well, currently I'm working on consulting for a new restaurant opening in Accra, in airport area.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you think about, in relation to the new restaurants you're opening? In about, say, every month or two, we have a new restaurant popping up in Accra.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that? And also, what's going to make this restaurant that you're consulting for different?
Well, I think it's a really cool thing to see the growing landscape of the restaurants that are coming, around Accra. This one, I think a lot of the places that I've seen, it's about vibes. Everyone's coming to chill, they want to have somewhere they can take nice pictures, but sometimes, we don't really concentrate on the hospitality aspect when we talk about service, right? We talk about really showing the clientele like a good time during the time that they're there. So I think this particular concept, we're bringing a little continental meets some Ghanaian local fare, but it's bringing more of that hospitality in that service industry of really paying attention to what the guest needs are.
Okay. So, when you talk about hospitality, what are the basic things that you would want to give a guest, or you should give to a guest once they enter into establishment?
I mean, it's a warm welcome, an extension. Ghanaians were very hospitable people, right? But it's more so beyond that. It's more about paying attention to small details. Somebody has water immediately when they sit down, you're pouring them a glass. Do you need sparkling or still? I think it's really trying to almost think ahead of the guest. What do they need before they need it, right? So it's very, very much about paying attention, and just see in that hospitality space, like how much time is going by when the client walks into the space, they sit down, how immediately someone is greeting them, how they get their menu, and then even the time it takes to order the food and then to receive the food. Sometimes we are so lost in I think just the space of just it's very cool vibes, just relax. Oh, it's coming, but it's also, it's a business. So you're trying to create profit. How do you upsell? Some people don't know some of those like terms. So, if somebody asks for an item on the menu, how can you as the server could really try and round out their thing? So maybe they're asking for maybe some wings and some, I don't know, it could be yam and pork. Well, okay, also add them, tell them about this drink special. Maybe there's a new cocktail. Maybe there's another appetizer that would pair well with it. So not only does it give the customer like, oh, here's another option to go with it, but then also for the check average that, when it start thinking about the numbers, about how a restaurant moves. How can we not improve just not only how much each guest is spending, but also, how can we make it fully worth their while? So there's a lot of different ways to tackle it, but I think, we have some work to do around Accra, but I think once we start to see some of these things for ourselves and we're like, oh, this is what we're missing, we can add this.
Yes.
Yes.
I know you're very interested in hospitality, and what is your view on customer service in Ghana? We get a lot of people, a lot of diasporans coming into the country, and even for us who live here, we say, oh, Ghana, there's no customer service, it doesn't exist. What do you think about that?
I think that we don't really have that climate here where we're so worried. Like in most of these other, in the Western world, where it's very capitalistic society, right? So every time is money, money is time. So you're trying to make the most of the time that is there. But we're here, I think we're very lax, we're very comfortable, and it'll be fine. When it comes, it comes. But you have to also understand, people are there to spend their money. So in a way, you have to kind of direct them. You are their, almost like their liaison. You're guiding them through this journey of this menu. So what's the most effective way they can get certain things? So I think here we don't really have that concept. We don't really have the hospitality programming to be teaching people some of these and giving those resources. So I think that would change. If that was introduced into this space, it would change a bit. But we're taking home training and coming to work you come and you greet someone comes to your house, you bring them water on a tray. It's hospitable to be like that, but that's not hospitality. So I think we need to really open our horizons and, look, what does it mean? If we're going to be this new tourism spot, we have to really start to cater to really making people feel comfortable and not just, that's Ghana for you. No, we have to change some things.
I mean, that's a very interesting point, because it's almost like everybody says we're hospitable. So, just including the word please is enough. Oh, please is coming. Please would come.
Yeah.
So for restaurant owners and, street food owners, some of us, I think it's very important for us to make the difference between being hospitable at home and a hospitality industry.
Absolutely.
So that makes it. I really wish you the best on the new space. I can't wait to come.
Yes.
And try the food. But I've always said that if you need tasters, call me.
Oh. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
One of the things that I really like about what you do is I know that you didn't grow up in Ghana, but you are really interested in bringing your memories and your experiences with your family and your friends on a plate. How did that start?
Well, professionally, I've been cooking professionally for 15 years. I think probably around the time of the pandemic, it really, I was in New York, and that was, the big epic center of it all. So everything had stopped. Life had just completely, everything that we knew was finished. So I took a lot of that time of idle time to kind of rethink what I was doing, because the restaurant I was working at was closed.
Okay.
Forever. So I was like, okay, how do you pivot from this? So I ended up spending some more time with my mom that I hadn't spent that much time with my mom in years. And she's just like, every Sunday, oh, we're making dinner. What do you want? I'm saying jollof. I want kilibili. I want consombre. I started saying, so we started really doing all these things. And while she was cooking these things, I was sitting at the kitchen table, just typing these memories, typing the recipes, because a lot of time, as as we grow up, everything is, oh, go to this auntie, she'll show you how to do this, so we're very much of almost like an apprentice kind of culture, right? Growing up. So nothing is really documented. You have to go and see. So I think for me, it really started more so, I saw my mom getting older. So I was like, it only takes one generation for things to disappear, and, as I'm first generation born in US. So it's like I have some cousins who like they know things and stuff, and some they care or don't. But a lot of it is led by our parents.
Yeah.
Our parents are getting old, you know, they're getting older, 60s, 70s. And as much as we want to say they'll live forever, they, you know, they won't. So there's time that we need to do to take. And that was the best time in an unfortunate situation, but the best time for me to sit down with my mom and started recording these things. And it really made my mind start to think like I can't believe I forgot how to make jollof. Like now I'm relearning it, but I'm seeing it in this lens of like, you know, professional kitchen. So how does like writing a recipe and a method in our terms, you know, it's not just, oh, pinch of this, oh, small, like, oh, it's okay. Like, mom, I need like actual 1 teaspoon, you know. But then you also, once even writing some of these things down, then trying to repeat them. And I'm like, it's more of heart, right? We cook so much love. Our grandmothers, how they spent all day. They start from morning to noon, you know. So you're starting to really, you have to break it down. So it's not so much of an science to it, but there is. So really trying to relearn my home food, but through techniques that I've had learned before, taking all these European people, you know, they revere all these different kind of cuisines, but African cuisine is left out of the conversation.
Oh, it's always is.
Always. So now it's like, nah, let's take, why can't, what, and then so I spent a lot of my time in fine dining. So it was like, well, what makes something fine dining? You know, and I didn't believe that it could only be Western or European cuisines. So breaking it down, what makes something? So you start think about the vibes, the atmosphere. You think about the table, how it's set. Is it white cloth? Is it the, you know, there are these different markers that make something. So I'm like, oh, okay, so fine dining is a mood. You know? So it does, you can take anything, that concept, and bring it. So I started to kind of play with that concept and really like, okay. And so relearning and it just began this whole, it was more of like a journey for myself about self-love. So it was really like, you know, we're almost, you know, as an immigrant child, you're taught to assimilate to whatever is what the new area in which you are, you know. And growing up, I knew I'm different, you know. I'm eating these stinking foods and stuff. I'm not bringing it to school. I'm trying to be like, oh, peanut butter and jelly, mom, you know, don't call my mom is Nanaraba calling me. I'm like, don't call me Nana, you know. So you're trying to shrink yourself to fit in, right? So now it was just like, no, be bold, be loud, be exactly who you are, and learning that through the food, learning and appreciating the smell of palm oil when it hits with onions. Like there's this smell. Before, I feel like it was like I was almost embarrassed. Like now it's like embrace it. You know, these are all the things that make me. So it really took to digest kind of some of these things, chop it up, and really bring it back.
It's such an interesting point that you raise about apprenticeship, because I've always been of the notion that even though we don't have cookbooks, like we've never really had a cookbook way of documenting. We've always had a way of documenting, which is apprenticeship, because then you have to learn from your grandmothers. The difference is, what do you do after the apprenticeship, which is between us and people who live in other countries. They would, you know, write it down in different forms. So it's a very interesting point that you raised. Let's talk about ingredients. So you learned this from your mother. You started to develop menus based on what you've learned and all the techniques you've learned. What was it for? Like, what was it about? How did you break down your ingredients? I asked this because in abroad you don't have the most authentic of ingredients, which means you have to substitute. So how were you able to still maintain the closest authentic taste, but still be able to substitute and explain these stories of the meals that you've made in your supper and pop-ups?
Well, I think that was this was when I had started the dinner series. This was 2020. So by 2021, December, that was when I first came back to Ghana. I hadn't been in like 5 years. So I knew I had reached a place that I wanted to learn as much authentically as I could, without changing any, everything was just learning from my mom what it was. And then that was when I was like, I have to go back to Ghana because there's no way I could be back there
yes.
and learning Ghanaian food.
Yes.
So at that point, I was like, okay, I just need to go and just taste things. So I'm coming and I'm eating things, and that was just what I knew I had to do for myself. So it was just like if you go into university and you do a semester abroad, it was the same. I wanted to take the same way I was approaching other cuisines or just studying the same way. So I had reached a point where there was only so much I can learn from my mom. Yeah. She also, she makes her own adjustments here and there. So yeah, in order to see something, you have to go to the source.
Okay. So again, ingredients wise, what's the difference between buying there and coming here and actually tasting it for what it is?
So for example, consommé. We use spinach, back home because that is the closest thing you'll get, right? So there's definitely noticeable understanding, but then knowing, okay, why did we substitute, and then what does the actual real thing taste like? Yeah. So it was like I needed to know both so I can make my own understanding of it. But yeah, there's some things are like they come canned, they come, somehow preserved or it's dry. So you're not going to the market and getting those fresh. So you lose some. I guess it would be more so like freshness of the quality of it, but yeah, it was just important to see because any substitution is not as good. Yeah. So I felt like I was stuck. So I had to come back to Ghana. Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about love that need.
Okay. Love that I need.
Yeah. Does that before I even ask the question, does the name come from the fact that does the name come from the fact that African food is cooked with love, or needing comes with love, which is which? I'm confused.
So it started with my auntie had taught me how to make some Ghanaian bread. Okay. It's like call it buns bread. It's like a sweet, sweet bread with like calabash nutmeg.
Like sugar bread,
right? A mix, yeah. So I learned it it was one of these recipes I learned so long ago, like that, and I had to beg my aunt. So again, when I talk about apprenticeship, she was like, "You have to be at my house 7 a.m." and and that recipe, I remember I sucked, but learning it, I had through the years, the last 12 or so years, I just kept playing with it and stuff like that. So that was a old name I had because needing it and realizing your hands are making this love and so I held on to the name for some years. And then when I started the pop-up again, and I already had Georgina's is the catering company. So I needed something. It couldn't be Georgina's something. I was like, okay, it needs its own kind of off identity. So Love That I Need came from that. So I had started baking bread first in the pandemic. And then it reawakened me to be like, okay, focus on these West African ingredients. And so, yeah, it became that.
Let's talk about that. Could you give the listeners a virtual look of, if you're doing your dinners, how is the menu like? And what are the West African or Ghanaian components of a meal if you're planning a menu for a residency or a supper club or a pop-up?
Okay, well, my family's from Western region, Takrady.
Yes.
So I grew up only going to Takrady. I never really spent time in Accra like that. Oh. Yeah. So my grandmother's house is walking distance from this fishing harbor.
Okay.
And we would always go there and have this fresh fish, all you can imagine. So fish was very heavy in we talked about nostalgia. Yes. So most of my menus are very fish heavy, very vegetarian forward too. I wouldn't say vegan, but because I feel like a lot of our foods, I feel like this whole vegan thing, like, is that something that's like, oh, it just happened or just appeared? We've been doing a lot of that for some time, and I think that most of our cooking, it might be vegetarian, like vegetable based in some way, but maybe we use like a meat for stock. So it won't be plenty like goats or beef, but we're using that to cook an item. So I always think forward like that when conceptualizing these dishes. But I think most of it always starts with what's the idea? What am I trying to convey? What is the message, or what was the experience? What was the inspiration for that menu? And it kind of comes together. So some of them are mostly about with my grandmother.
Yeah.
So, bread, even Milo. I've had like Milo butter, which, you're taking the Milo and making it to spread on the butter kind of thing. Yeah. Nice. So some of them is just like fun, like ways like, breaking down like a deconstruction,
almost like a
of those dishes. So that's how some of it is. Like even, take Ikantenkwan.
Yes.
Right. So I did Emutuo, but I did it more so like the soup is inside the Emutuo, and then it is a fried ball. So it's like a whole one.
Okay.
But everything is still made authentically the same. So you taste it, you're like, I know what this is.
Yeah, it reminds me of something.
It's just packaged differently, So I think a lot of it is just fun techniques like that. We're using some of these, like, I will always have French techniques somewhere because that's what I spent a lot of my time doing. So see a lot of sauce work. Something is, this sauce is here and this jus over here, this stock has been used, So I use a lot of that.
Is this way of interpreting the ingredients you learned because of the techniques you learned, or because of the people that you're cooking for? Because if you're cooking for a Ghanaian audience and you were putting the soup inside the, my friend, where's the soup?
Where's the soup?
Where's the soup?
Yes, my mom was like, I want my soup.
But if you're cooking for people who don't really know what the authentic taste is, or maybe they've had it once or twice, they are more open to you being able to use your techniques to change the look of the food, or maybe not the taste. Yeah. What do you think really inspires the outcome of the meals that you make?
I don't want to say I'm not cooking for foreign tastes per se. I'm keeping everything traditional. I'm not trying to change anything for someone to feel make it more palatable. I'm not doing that. Everything is always going to be, how it is. Okay. And I'll never change the integrity of the actual. I want you to even, in fact, understand it a little bit more. So maybe some of the flavors are more pronounced, or they're singled out. Like I do this palm oil aioli to single out the palm oil taste, because some people do not know that. They've never tasted it. Yeah. So what is that? So I feel like for the old folks, because there's always going to be an auntie somewhere who's like, like it's the blasphemous thing that you're doing, But I think it shows our creativity in our generation, how we are excited about our food. I think what I do shows how much I love Ghanaian food, that I'm willing to almost look like a fool, but also to just be like, no, you have to see this, I'm using shito more as like a marinade, versus it being just using it as a condiment, because it's something that's so flavorful, why, so you're thinking about, why would I do that? Not that, we don't do that here, but like, okay, well, what does it have? It has shrimp in it. Sometimes can have also fish powder. You have all these aromatics, your ginger, your garlic. So you think about it like, why aren't we using it more than a condiment? So I have questions, and I'm like, well, why not? So that's how I look at some of the foods to look at it. But it's definitely, it's reimagining it. I'm not trying to reinvent anything.
I think that's a very good point to make. Reinvention is totally different from reimagining a dish. So that makes a lot of sense. I can't wait to be at one of your dinners.
Yes. We're waiting, Jane.
and I won't be cooking. I'll be eating.
You won't be.
Let me just make that clear.
Okay.
Don't make me wake. Don't make me wake. I know that you've done lots of residencies, like
Mhm.
really exciting ones.
Mhm.
You've worked with like really amazing chefs. One of the ones that you did last year was working with Eric Japan, who is,
Yes.
of Ghanaian origin,
Mhm.
doing amazing stuff there. What was the experience like working with a Ghanaian who's just like you, also
Yeah.
grew up outside
Yeah.
and trying to make, his name from putting together what he knows plus where he learns his craft from?
Mhm. I think it's just exciting. It was so cool to work on his cookbook, to see how he through the years has, documented his own experiences. And he comes back and forth a bit as well. And he so Eric grew up in the Bronx.
Okay.
And those of you who know, the Bronx is very heavily Ghanaian. They call it Little
Okay.
Accra, right?
Okay.
So I feel it's very interesting to see his experience as a Ghanaian in a place that is like this.
It's almost Ghanaian,
yeah. So his experiences, and like the book is beautiful, by the way. It is very much almost like a memoir. So he talks about some of his fondest memories because he did spend, I think, growing up, he spent some time in Ghana, yeah, as a child. So how he remembers some things, and then him. I mean, of course, we know he's on Top Chef. He's now such a big face on food TV, like heavily, especially in America. So it was a very proud moment. I was just like, wow, guys, like every day I came to set, like, do you understand how important, because me and him were the only Ghanaians. So it's a space, that is like, there's not other people that are also, I mean, not yet, right? But creating a space that's for us that we can appreciate. And it's not like, oh, we're doing West Africa. It's Ghana. We're really, really looking at that and chopping these things up, like, to be able. So Susie in the Midwest can also have fufu, like. So it was a very, very cool experience. And his mom came, so there were some very, very authentic ways that she wanted to make sure that her voice was through it, because he learned a lot of stuff through her. So it was an amazing moment, and I can't wait for everybody to see the book.
I'm just putting it out there so people know that my friend, my friend did the styling when the book comes out. That's why I asked the question. I'm just dropping it in there quietly and slowly.
Yeah.
But amazing job on that. I saw some of the videos that you guys did, and I think that two of you were really happy working together and making sure that the book was as closely relatable to us as it can be. So I can't wait for the book to come out.
Yes.
I remember one of the few times that one of the first times that I heard about you was your work with Afrochella.
Yes.
And I always used to think, I mean, Afrochella is a cultural festival, but they just think about dance, music, vibes, nothing about food. But food is a huge part of culture. So I was really happy to know that you're working with Afrochella. You were creating menus and dishes based on the essence of the festival. Could you just take us through the experience of your work with Afrochella, and what are some of the amazing things that you were able to create with the team?
Yeah, it was cool. So I tell you, sometimes I'm like very like, I sit back and like, I did that too. Okay, wow. So I look at, for me, food growing up was always centered around music and food. My parents always had something going on at the house. My dad had this incredible sound system. My mom and my grandmother were always cooking. They were making kenke. They were frying fish, all this stuff. And so it was just something I've always been used to. So when the dinner series started, music and food, it was just so important. I always make playlists. Like, all my friends always know, oh, Nana has a playlist for everything. Like, there was something I was like, no, you have to, in order to understand a culture, you really, like, music is like the easiest way in, right? It's a universal language. So to me, I looked at them and I was like, okay, why are they not taking this time to make a really cool experience that has Ghanaian food presented in a way? So I pitched it to them and they're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Some of them had knew about what I've been doing in New York. So, it was not too hard to pitch to them. And it ended up being a beautiful dinner that we did. It was like in Osu on this rooftop. And we did four or five courses, and it was, we talked about the sustainability, the possible sustainability in Ghana that can happen if we are utilizing our own.
Okay.
And so for me, that was a very important conversation to have. We're importing tomatoes sometimes, tomato paste,
all the time.
We're talking, we're talking about all these things. I'm like, why are we what would be the possibilities if we really understood and invested in the industrialization of some of these crops that we're shipping in, some that we can honestly, be growing here. So that was the conversation, and around the food, the menu that we did that day, and incorporating wagashi. There were people that had never had it before, and just beautiful different ways to do. We did cassava fish was on there. We did this very cool thing with garden eggs. Like it was just.
Oh, I've heard about that garden. I hear it's too good. I hear it's too good. I've heard about that.
The garden eggs, yeah. It was just like a very cool way to be eating some of these, like, what are these homegrown ingredients that are indigenous here? How can we, talk more about them? How can we use them more? Even precase, using that more as like, you were even telling me as a tea, like something that you can brew. Like there are different benefits to all these things. Yeah. So that was cool. I think they were really interested in hearing more about it. So we were able to do that. That was right before the rebranding of becoming Afrofuture. So I think they see the potential, but it's a lot that they're trying to do, because they're also tackling beauty and tech. But I'm like, there needs to be a space, and not just the vendors at there needs to be, so that's still an ongoing conversation that I'm having with them. But I think it opened their minds up to being like, we can have a platform that can really, do more than just this fun time, chillings, duties, December,
And it's not just for them. They have already tried it, and they already know what, the contribution cuisine in general gives to a country or a culture. But it's also important that other people also learn, which includes our governments as well. Like, coming to a country and making it a tourist site doesn't just mean
change things.
Let's go to waterfalls or let's go and see where the slaves died.
So we made sure, we made sure to invite some prime people that would listen. That's what we were saying.
It's all very important, but it's also very important that people get to understand who we are as a people by understanding the ingredients that we grow here.
Exactly.
And even that also supports the street food vendors, the market women. All the big nice restaurants are great. I don't have any issues with that, but it also boils down to we as a people. Like, what are we trying to show the world? So it's a great initiative that you guys as a team started, and we hope that they'll be able to do more.
We'll see more. We'll see more.
More.
Yes, we will.
What is you as a private chef, you as a woman in culinary who is so interested in community work, you as an owner of a supper club in 5 years? I know you do so many things. I know. But in 5 years, what are you, what would you want to achieve, especially in connection to Ghana, where you come from? Are we still going to see you in New York or in Philadelphia trying to do something here, or there's going to be a move? I'll be interested too.
Well, I'm definitely spending more time here. I want to invest my time and the resources. That was always like, Love That I Need was supposed to not just be for me. It was supposed to be a space that that gave women, especially Black women, an opportunity to be at the table, have their own table, right?
Love that.
And so now, I think before we were chasing these different tables and spaces that were not made for us, and they weren't created to look at our cuisine the way that we do. And we even too weren't looking at our cuisine in a certain way. So now I think so many things are changing that we have our own table, and it's fine. So that was the opportunity, because to me, there wasn't enough opportunities for Black women to showcase and be the lead. We're always a supporting role, right? Supporting actress in the background, lifting some man up like this, So it was like, it's about time that we have our voices to voice this. So the last few years I've been doing or been a part of a travel club that I've been about. So every October we've been bringing people from US who want to reconnect or want to experience Ghana. And at the end of that, I've just been doing my dinner series, and I've been doing guest chefs each time. And so that gave the opportunity for a local chef to come and to also, to showcase themselves, talk about more, plug their company in. You never know who you'll meet to these type of events. So I definitely would love for my supper club to continue to help other young chefs around here. There's not really a lot of mentorship, right? So I want to be able to give more resources, some guidance on how to, how to invest more self into becoming a chef and not a cook. That's two things people don't understand, what a difference between a cook and a chef. And a chef is somebody who not only leads, but makes other chefs, And I think a cook, just somebody who follows direction and is given, they don't think, they're just cooking. But a chef is someone who creates more for others behind them. So I'm hoping that through that work, it will kind of change the landscape of some of this. Instead of us bringing all these different chefs from abroad to be doing these, heading these restaurants, it should be these local Ghanaian chefs that are here. We have talent here. It just needs to be nurtured, and given some. So I think that's more of what I want to push into that space. Even when I did that Afrocello thing, it was all local chefs that were helping me to make it happen, and so they had an opportunity to meet some of these people that they wouldn't have met before. Pushing that more in, and even myself with this consulting thing, hopefully that continues to do more here. I see myself maybe doing some bread stuff and opening a little bread spot soon. That would be lovely. So splitting half of my time here for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a good time, to come into the space because Ghana is opening up for culinary experiences. So it's a really good time for you to come into the space. And I can't wait to see all the amazing things that you will do. I can't wait to see all the good things. But I'm really proud of you, and I'm happy about what you're doing. I'm happy that you came on our small podcast.
Big time, please, big. I'm so, when you guys tell me, the name itself, More Than Jollof, I was like, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. We love jollof. Jollof is everything, but there's so much more.
Thank you so much, Nana, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Chef Nana. It was really, really eye-opening, and I love her objective about our Ghanaian ingredients and how she's able to fuse her ingredients and the technique she's learned from obviously going to chef school. If you join us this week, thank you so much for listening to us on all the platforms, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and any other platform where we are. Join us next week as we interview another amazing personality who is making waves in the culinary industry in our continent and outside the continent. This has been More Than Jollof. More Than Jollof.